Okay folks, so here we are in the back garden. Still quite a bit to do out here, to be honest. It's only early spring, some trimming back and bits and bobs to do. Not a bad sized garden though. It certainly does for everything that we need. These are the sort of main beds that I grow in. They're all 8 foot square. The garlic there on the left hand side is actually overwintering variety that I decided to try. And they seem to be growing okay. I'm just a little bit concerned because we've had such a wet winter. I'm hoping that they're not sort of rotting in the ground, but they seem to be okay. And then I've got some spring garlic under the netting, mainly because the shoots on that are about 1 centimetre long at the minute. I don't want the birds to come and pick them out like they did with the onions last year, thinking that they're worms. So I'll keep that on for a little bit longer yet. First year I've grown garlic actually, but the spring ones I've planted out, actually I did at the perfect time because I put them in and then we had a few days of really sort of hard frost, which is what they like. Apparently it splits the bulb and stops you from having one sort of massive garlic bulb. So they're already on the go, but nothing else out yet. It's still a little bit too early. Compost bin at the top there. I'm going to get a compost silo as well this year because I sometimes find the bin, it's okay, but it tends to sweat a little bit. You'll have to forgive the camera shake. I'm just going to walk up the garden, make sure I don't walk into the furniture. And I'm just in the process of filling these beds, 8 foot by 2 foot, just a bit more growing space really. The one at the back there, I think I'm going to put our sugar snap peas in this year. Grew them last year, they were delicious. And then I think the front one is probably going to be a strawberry bed. So we're going to go into the polytunnel. Now, I call this a polytunnel. Technically it's a poly greenhouse really. But this has been, it's been up through the winter, and as you can see I've framed it out here, so this basically is where I'm going to grow my tomatoes eventually. So in large pots, stand them on the gravel there, and then this frame is what I'm going to use to support the canes. And then on this side, framed out, we've got the border at the bottom there, and we've got my sort of potting area, if you like. Basically, what I did when I did all this at the just before winter kicked in, really, this frame's tie wrapped to the polytunnel, so the polytunnel isn't going anywhere. I was concerned that the wind might get underneath and just flip it, but there's enough weight in here now that I don't think that's going to happen. And as you can see, despite the fact that we've had some pretty strong wind over the winter, there's absolutely no damage to this whatsoever, so it's stood the test really well. I got this cheap actually. I got this for 20 quid from the, I work in a garden centre, fortunately enough, at a large DIY store. Now this was old stock. I got this for 20 quid. 8 foot by 6 foot. Absolutely bang on. So I'll just quickly show you what I've got going off in here. I always start leeks fairly early, really. I mean, you know, even these went in, I think, back end of January. You know, maybe a bit later, maybe middle of February. But what I tend to find with those is they can take up to 12 months before they get to a decent size. So get them started off nice and early, and they don't mind the cold too much. They're in the polytunnel at the minute, and it has been warm over the last few days, so they're doing all right. I mentioned a bit earlier about the birds, the pigeons namely, taking pulling the onions up last year. What basically happens is sometimes the shoots get to a couple of centimetres long. The pigeons think that they're worms. They pull them out the ground, realise they're not worms, and just leave them sort of strewn all over the place. So what I've seen a lot of people doing is growing these in modules, getting them to shoot first, wait until the shoots are a decent sort of length, and then planting them out. So I'm going to give that a try. I put these in about a week ago, I think. No shoots on top yet, but the roots are already starting to establish because I checked these yesterday. So, you know, so far so good. I have this little border down here, and I've got 2 rows of lettuce, a green and a red variety there, which are starting to germinate. Thought I'd just give it a try. I mean, it says so indoors from March. Well, we're not exactly indoors, but, you know, it's been quite warm out here. It doesn't tend to get that cold. I don't heat it or anything, but yeah, they're doing okay. I also put some beetroot in, and I think there's one germinating there, but I expect them to take a little bit longer anyway. What I'll tend to do is I'll grow these to probably about golf ball size, say. We'll use them in salads and pickle them. I've got Boltardi, which I grew last year, fantastic results with, and I've got a multicoloured variety as well this year, just something a bit different really, and yeah, they'll be delicious when they're ready. Usually from about mid-April onwards, I put I put them straight in the ground after that, or in the beds outside, and they always do fine. I also actually started off some onions in here as well, about 6 weeks ago now, I think. Well, I started them off indoors actually in modules like the ones I've just shown you, and then I've planted them out here, and that's where they'll stay now really until they reach full size. I've got some feed in there as pardon me, got some feed in there as well. So yeah, onto the potatoes. Now these 3 tubs are actually a bit of an experiment. So I bought these from the aforementioned DIY store that I work at about mid-January, and they'd already chittered, and they were sort of, we got sent them early, basically, far too early. I mean, these came in just before Christmas, which I don't know why places do that, to be honest. It is a little bit early, but I wasn't doing anything else, so I thought, you know what, I'll just put them in as an experiment. Here in the polytunnel, that's where they've stayed. That tub I did quite a bit later, that's why there's nothing really coming through yet. These ones I've been topping up as they've been growing, and they have been growing, and as you can see, the soil's topped right up now, and they're starting to come through. They should be protected from the frost in the polytunnel, but if I always keep an eye on the weather, and if we're expecting a harsh frost, then you know I may put some fleece or something over them. But as I say, much earlier than I normally put them in, bit of an experiment. My actual first and second earlies are in these. So I got these from Unwin's, I think, and it's basically you get a set of 3 of these grow bags here, grow sacks even, and they send you tubers as well. So I've got 2 first early varieties, Swift and Charlotte, I do believe, and then we've got Ouija, second early, in there. So 5 tubs of new potatoes. This is going to be more than enough. Well, I can't count actually. 6 lots of new potatoes. It's going to be more than enough for the 3 of us. And I'm also going to grow my main crops in tubs as well this year. The main reason being that sort of when they're ready, you know, I can just cut the tops off and keep them in the buckets as they are. Probably put them in the shed, and they'll last a lot longer that way. And that's about it really. That's kind of all I've got sort of going off at the minute. It's still early days, but I am massively looking forward to 2016. So thanks for watching, guys. As I say, not the most professional videos. I do apologise for that, but you got to start somewhere, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hi again, folks. Just a little section that I meant to put in this episode and kind of forgot about. It's just occurred to me while I've been digging that border over. Is I just wanted to give you a bit of a sort of general overview of the whole garden. But firstly, I forgot to mention the date. So it is the 17th of March. Happy St Patrick's Day, everyone, and particularly our Irish friends. Also, our location. I think it's also quite important in gardening, really, to give you location. So we're in Doncaster, in South Yorkshire. So we're sort of northern-ish, I suppose. We tend to find with Doncaster, actually, is we're in a little bit of a valley. So we seem to tend to be a little bit milder than, say, I mean, Sheffield, which is sort of just down the road. You know, when we get cold weather, they will get, you know, 6 inches of snow, and it sort of hardly touches us. So, you know, it's like I say, we're in a little bit of a sort of sheltered bowl here in Doncaster. So we're quite lucky with this garden as well, because this is actually south facing, or I think southeast or something to be precise, but generally we're south facing here, so we get sun here pretty much, you you know, all day. And also the kitchen windowsill downstairs, where I was showing you all the seedlings as well, also faces out onto the garden. So same situation there. I do apologise for the state of this window. Actually, the inside's clean, but we sacked the window cleaner a couple of months ago because it wasn't doing a very good job, and we've not managed to find anyone else yet. But so here we go. Yeah, quick view of the garden. So we've got the decking frame there. We did have deck boards on there last year, but we've decided to renew them this year. So what I've done is I've used them to do the semi-raised beds over the other side. But we are going to have decking down on that hopefully in the next month or so, and then this cast iron table and chair set that we were very kindly given by some friends, that'll get a paint job and that'll go on there. Shed needs a little bit of work this year. The felt blew off during winter, needs refelting, probably needs a bit of a paint. Just coming over to the other side of the garden, so you see where the sort of climbing apparatus is there, and you see all those bushes behind it that run down the left hand side and along the back of the garden. I trim those back every year, but to be honest, I wouldn't chop those down really, because firstly it creates a bit of a natural border. There isn't a fence in that section of the garden, so you know, it just gives us that bit of privacy and a bit of shelter from the wind as well. The other thing as well is it does make quite a good sort of natural habitat. You know, it's nice to have a bit of a wild area. We get lots of birds nesting in there, hedgehogs and such like. And the plan this year, actually, where the climbing apparatus is, we're going to get rid of that. My boy's 7 now, and he's a bit too big for that. So that stuff's going to be going, and in that area, just between the bushes and where the end of the semi-raised beds are, I'm thinking of probably putting a nature pond or something in there, and some kind of water feature. So I'm not in any rush to do that. That's something, you know, perhaps later on in the year. You see, I've got one of these plastic compost bins down the bottom. Now, last year I didn't really use that. I just sort of had it piled up in the corner of the garden, and I found that I got much better results. I think with the compost bin, sometimes they can tend to sweat a lot. But what I have done this year is I am going to use that, but I'm also going to buy a sort of open top compost silo as well. I did get some pretty good compost last year, and I actually used a lot of it to fill, well, they're not completely full yet, but the 2 long raised beds there at the back of the polytunnel over the right hand side there. But what I've done is I've drilled extra holes in that this year, and also where there was a sort of plastic door, if you like, on the front of that, I've actually taken that off, and all I've got there is just a mesh, so there's plenty of airflow going through there. So that's the sort of plan for that area this year. The pub bench at the bottom there, which I love to sit there in the summer. It feels like I'm in a beer garden or something. It's even better when you've got a cold beer. The arbour in the top corner there is actually very comfortable to sit on. But unfortunately the birds do tend to dive bomb it as well, so we tend to have to clean that a fair bit. So that's it really, folks. I just wanted to give you a general overview of the garden. If anybody's got any questions or comments or anything like that, if you want to just write them in the comments box below, I will try to reply to all of those. But until next time, thanks for watching guys, take care and bye for now.